Welcome to the Game of Satoshi livestream. This is the world's first cinematic Bitcoin puzzle game. This is where you can decode Satoshi's enigma so you can learn, win, and master financial freedom one episode at a time. Every week, we take you inside the story of money's hidden history, the problems that Bitcoin solves, and the choices that will shape your future. Each episode on this channel delivers a clear lesson, an interactive puzzle, and a path for you to level up, whether you're a first-timer or a hardcore Bitcoiner. We're just about to start the live stream show where we'll offer real-time challenges, giveaways, interviews with Bitcoin experts, and answer your questions. So grab your coffee or drink of choice and lock in. Here we go.
Hello everyone. I hope that everything is fine. I just listening. Here. Now it's good. So hello everyone. Welcome to today's live stream Game of Satoshi. And today we have a very special guest Tony from the Bitcoin Way. But before I will introduce him or invite him here, I want to remind you that you should ask question, Tony, and use it in the Slido. Use the Slido link, which is in the description and also in the chat. And we will answer that after, later in the stream. And also, if you want to participate in giveaways, comment under Mission 11 and Episode 11. And in the end, we will do some random pick and everything. So I will not delay this more. Welcome, Tony. We are happy that you are here.
Hello. Thank you, Marek. Thank you for having me, man. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. Did you celebrate?
Yes, of course, for about 21 minutes.
Okay.
and then it was back to work. No, the team didn't stop. I mean, we don't stop. I mean, we have little breaks whenever it's possible. But in the same way that Bitcoin doesn't stop, we don't stop. We had a lot of traffic coming our way during, the Christmas and New Year timeframe, and so of course, the team was always available to correspond and respond.
That's great, but also it's important to also take a rest, yeah. But Tony, before Bitcoin, before self-custody, before all the philosophy behind, what actually happened the day that your accounts were frozen, and what did you feel like? Tell us a little bit more about this story, your Genesis story.
I think this is a day that I'll never forget and will take to my grave. Is the day I went to bed after a very lovely evening out with friends and woke up the next morning completely homeless. When I found out about the news that the banks had seized everybody's account, not just mine, like the whole country's, and your savings, that fake number on a screen, had also disappeared along with it. So the ATMs they're no longer working, your credit cards are not working, there's nobody at the bank that you can call, nobody's answering the door at the bank. And if you tried to go there were like thousands of people trying to bust down the bank door, trying to get inside, trying to figure out what happened, trying to get access back to their funds. It was a complete disaster that, like in hindsight, there were signs, but, until it actually happens, you don't believe that something like this is actually possible. Mm-hmm. But believe me, it is very, very possible. It's very, very real. And Lebanon, was not the exception to the rule here. Lebanon was just one of the countries that got hit sooner than others. But the mechanics of the problem in Beirut are the same, no matter where you are, in this world. If you're using fiat currency, you are, on a ticking time bomb until your turn comes. So that is like, to sum it up real quick, what happened is that the entire country's financial system collapsed and everybody woke up with nothing. And so you were forced in a position to simply deal with it. Nobody trains you for this, nobody warns you about this. And you just have to figure out what the next step is. And, who knows what that next step is? You're like thrown back 1,000 years, literally back into the Stone Age, trying to figure out, where the next meal is going to come from. Because again, you have no more money. Like I only had about like $70 in cash in my pocket from the night before, and that's it. So when the kitchen runs out of whatever is there, how are you going to fill it up again? You can't go to the supermarket because how are you going to pay for stuff? And so people went there to loot, to steal. Except if you thought you were going to join that party as well, there was a surprise waiting for you at the supermarket. There was like 3,000 people ahead of you with guns and knives and hammers and screwdrivers, all fighting for the remaining supply of whatever was on the shelves. So
That's crazy and unimaginable, I would say. Yeah.
yes, yes, very, like, it's the worst horror movie you can ever imagine unfolding in real time. And you are a player now in this movie, whether you like it or not, and you have to survive. Again, you're stripped down to your very basic DNA level. Like, if you want to know what you're made of, put yourself in a situation like this, and you'll figure that out very, very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, definitely. You said that if there was some signs that this will happen, like, or it was just like random the next day, it was like gone.
No, it wasn't random, but I mean, when you don't understand how the system works initially, you ignore these signs, or worse, you think they're a good thing. And what I mean by that is that for the longest time, the banking system in Lebanon was offering very high interest rates on your savings account.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had some money, especially if you were a high net worth individual, you could place your US dollars in a bank account in Lebanon and they would give you up to 15% interest. So it was essentially free money for many years. And who wouldn't want that, right? Like, I mean, if you don't understand that this is a Ponzi to begin with, for you it's like a Christmas present. Every single day you have some money, you put it there, they give you even more money, you live for free, life's great. And in Lebanon, like, if you were someone of modest to high net worth, you were treated like a king. There was absolutely nothing under the sun that was impossible for you. You just had to ask and they would deliver, because of course you could pay for it later on. But like with every Ponzi, it has an expiration date. And when the money ran out, everything collapsed almost immediately. In hindsight, there were some signs. For example, like the credit card limits, I had a very high one.
Mm-hmm.
And then, literally in a matter of days, it dropped down a little bit. So, okay, no big deal. But then a few more days later, it dropped down even more. Okay, weird, but still no big deal. It was still high enough. But then it became really fast. And then it went from pretty much unlimited to zero, within a span of like a month. And so the credit cards not only affected people locally, but if you were a Lebanese person living abroad, using a Lebanese bank credit card, well, that stopped working
Okay.
too, right? And so those people found themselves in a situation that was, 100 times worse, because they're still living in a place where everything's functional except for them. So school fees had to be paid, you had to go buy groceries, you can't, your credit cards don't work. Nothing is working. Locally, it became very dangerous. That was really the only distinction, where everybody was out of money. But if you were in Lebanon, things became physically dangerous because everybody was going crazy. If you're outside Lebanon, you were choked, because now you can't pay for anything if that was your only source of revenue.
Yeah. Or yeah, or you have a bank account only in Lebanon. Yeah, that's crazy that something like that can happen. And actually, it's possible that it will happen in many countries after that as well. Um, you said about the riots and everything. I think that I don't know where is most people now listening, but I would say like Czech, Europe, maybe Germany. Yeah, I don't know people, guys, where are you from? But I think that this is something what people cannot like even imagine that this is possible. You know, like because I think that they don't have the experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a problem, because people who are still living somewhere that is, considered financially privileged, where you still wake up in the morning and things, for the most part are still functional. You are still shielded from, the storm that is headed your way.
Hmm.
The mechanics of the problem in Beirut, again, are not isolated to any country. They're global. The Lebanese pound was pegged to the US dollar. So when that broke, um, it broke like within hours. It didn't take too long for it to go from 1,500 pounds for the dollar to become worth, I don't know, like 1.5 million pounds to the dollar, right? Like it breaks almost immediately. And so this Ponzi, these mechanisms are with every fiat currencies, whether it's the dollar, the euro, the yen, doesn't really matter where you're from. Your money is worthless because it's not money. This is a truth that most people to this day are not aware of. The fiat money, that garbage that we work for 9 to 5, is printed out of thin air by a small percentage, a small club that you don't belong to, that lives off of you, like a parasite. It's designed to steal from you, to extract from you in 100 million directions while they live for free. And except to keep that Ponzi going, well, they have to keep printing more of it. And the more of it they print, well, the less value that piece of paper that you're holding becomes worth. So that's why things get more expensive. Except your income, if you're working like a regular 9 to 5 job, doesn't keep up with the rate that you're losing that purchasing power in. And so at some point, like somebody's making, I don't know, $2,000 or 2,000 euros a month, while your basic expenses are now higher than 2,000. So where are you going to get the money for it? So people start working 2, 3, 4 jobs trying to make ends meet. But the problem is there's so many hours in a day, and on some of it you have to sleep. You're not a robot. And so even if you do attempt to go the distance, you'll only be able to do it temporarily, and only if you are young enough to have the energy to do it. People that are of a certain age, don't have the stamina to do 2 or 3 more jobs, but they still have to eat. They still have bills to pay. They still have medical expenses, in case, they are sick or someone from their family is sick. Like they still have immediate concerns that they need to find solutions for, but they won't be able to, because everywhere they look, it's a dead end. And so the problem isn't the user, the consumer. The problem is the money itself that we were lied to believe had value. And so if you remain in that rigged system, you're going down with the ship and heading to zero. And your Lebanon moment is coming. In my head, it's 100% guaranteed. It's mathematically impossible for it not to happen.
Okay. So.
And so what we're seeing unfold around the world these days are just draconian measures to slow that down. They can't stop it. It's done, but you can attempt to slow it down. And what they're doing to slow it down is trying to force you into a new version of money that has exponentially more degrees of surveillance, tyranny, control. That's why you hear a lot of stories now about digital IDs, central bank digital currencies, and things of that sort. They're trying to control narratives so that the news about all of this stuff doesn't get out. Because if 8 billion people understand what's happening, well, you can just imagine how fast things will escalate. And so trying to censor the internet, this is not for your protection or the protection of your kids. Nobody gives a shit about them. It's about controlling the narratives so that 8 billion people don't learn the truth about what is really going on. And so, in my opinion, that's not working, obviously, because like I'm just one voice, but there's like millions of others that go even further in pushing, the elements of truth to as many folks as possible. But ultimately, all this evil, all these problems that we're witnessing, they all have one common denominator. It's broken money. The fiat paper, again, is not money. And when you put it in a bank, it's no longer yours. That is a fact that most people, again, to this day, don't believe or don't understand. When you open up a bank account, they make you sign, this 101 pieces of paper that nobody reads. But what you're essentially signing is that when you put that money in your bank, the bank technically owes it back to you. But if they don't want to give it back to you, they legally don't have to. And now what people are realizing is that they're not getting access to their funds. You want to do this? Why? 700 questions to answer. If you don't answer in a way that they approve of, there's no money. You want to buy Bitcoin or something else that they don't approve of? Sorry, it's for your protection. We care about you. You have no access to your money. So you understand what's happening now, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not crazy people on YouTube talking about this. People are starting to wake up to this reality, and you're starting to see a panic brew. We have, more extreme cases now unfolding in countries like Australia, even worse in the UK. We're starting to see it to grow even more in Canada. We're seeing in the US. A lot more people are realizing all of this because the situation is getting worse by the day, and it's going to continue getting worse because you can't fix this. It's like a burning building. The pieces are falling apart. You cannot like undo the fire. You can try to maybe slow down the rate that it reaches all floors, but at some point they're all crumbling down. So this is what's happening right now.
Okay. I mean, you. So what did you do? What did you start studying? Of course, like money, like when things happen in Lebanon, then you start understanding money, and then you end up with the Bitcoin, or what was the story after?
No, man, when everything collapsed, nobody's thinking about Bitcoin or anything. Everybody's extremely angry. Everybody's extremely desperate and doing things that you can't really speak about because again you're brought down to your survival traits here. And so only after many months of a very dark period that at one afternoon I happened to open up the computer and stumble across a video by Andreas Antonopoulos that was talking about Bitcoin to a room of about like I don't know like 12 people. And for the first time I think after so many months I actually smiled because that message like I had to listen to it like a few times because it sounded really too good to be true initially. And that's really what got my energy going again. It was in my case Bitcoin literally saved my life because if there wasn't this beacon of hope, I'm not sure I'd be here today doing all the work that I do on a daily basis. And so that forced me to understand why Lebanon happened, how it was possible, who was responsible for it, and diving into solutions to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And this is where you understand what Bitcoin is, and that it's actually the first time the world has sound money that is not issued by a government, that is not issued by a central bank, that literally cannot be manipulated or controlled by any living soul.
Yeah.
And what, of course, when you hear about this the first time, nobody believes it because it really does sound too good to be true. But the more you study it, the more you read about it, the more you understand that this is not a fairy tale. This is something that has been in the works for a very long time, has had many iterations. All of them have failed, and Bitcoin is the first time it didn't fail. And so once that clicks, you start wanting to learn how this works. And because it comes from the world of technology, digital money, Most people are not comfortable in that world because they think they're terrible behind a computer and what have you. And there's no forgiveness in Bitcoin in the sense that if you make a mistake, it's a one-way street. There's no refund center or customer support department you can reach out to. That's it. The money's gone, and you learn from your mistakes not to repeat it again. So
Do you
that's
think?
both a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing in the sense that it forces honesty, it forces personal responsibility, it forces accountability. It's bad in the sense that if you just want to figure it out as you go along without doing the work, you're going to get wrecked. And so a lot of people have learned that the harsh way, unfortunately, and have attributed all sorts of names to Bitcoin. Oh, it's a scam, it's a Ponzi, the government's going to shut it down, and all that other nonsense. But these are people that simply haven't done the work. They saw Bitcoin maybe as a shortcut, and they thought it was going to be like their lottery ticket to becoming a multimillionaire or billionaire. And of course, they did it all backwards, and it blew up in their face, and they lost their funds. This is not what Bitcoin is.
You said that. I mean, yeah, Bitcoin. It's lots of responsibility because there is no mistakes, as you said, or mistake you pay for them. Do you think that this is the biggest fear, or people are afraid of that? That's why they don't do proper self-custody as Bitcoin was intended.
Absolutely. This is one of the biggest hurdles to self-custody is because we've been living in a world that keeps us very far away from anything personal responsibility, especially around money. We've been psyoped and brainwashed to think that you always need a third-party custodian to protect your finances because that's just the better way. That's not true. That's the lie that we've been fed since the days we were born, and Bitcoin completely destroys that mold. But because you've lived your entire life thinking that way, that's all you understand, and that's all that feels comfortable and safe. And so here comes along something that removes all of this comfort and tells you, well, now look, you're responsible for your finances, you're the bank essentially, and if you make a mistake, well, the money's gone. And so most people initially get petrified of this because they're like, shit, like anybody can make a mistake. And that's true, except the steps to becoming your own bank and doing self-custody in Bitcoin is not hard. Most people do 100 million things every day that are 100 times more complicated than learning 7 or 8 steps to do Bitcoin self-custody. Self-custody, once you understand how it works, is the dumbest, most simplest number of like routine you can possibly imagine. Like once it clicks and you get the hang of it, you'll be doing this in your sleep, like an autopilot, irrespective of the amount that you're dealing with. Whether you're transacting with $1 or 100 million, it's the same steps, takes the same amount of time to send from point A to point B, under a minute.
You,
And
you,
protecting it, yeah,
you said that self-custody isn't a technical decision, but it's a moral one. In other interview, what do you mean by that?
it's both. It's both a technical decision and a moral one, because one, you first of all, you have to understand what Bitcoin is before you do anything with Bitcoin. Because if you're coming into Bitcoin thinking of it as a speculation, like you're buying a stock or a share because you want to get more dollars or euros later on, that is completely the wrong approach, and you will most likely lose your funds because there are market forces out there that are easy can easily be manipulated to shake you out of your hands. Bitcoin is money, like real money. It's not a stock, it's not a share, it's not a speculation. It's a savings technology that appreciates in value. And so, because we've never had it before, and because before Bitcoin, nobody could actually own their money, you have to learn how to use it. It's as simple as that. And so once people get it, that this is something that is no longer like you no longer can be manipulated or corrupted or stolen or debased by any company, by any government, by any central bank, um, they understand that this is a direct link to their sovereignty and their freedom. And so then they want to learn how to do it.
Okay.
And once you learn the steps, and of course, this is here what we teach here at the Bitcoin way, to remove the anxiety that's normally attached to learning something in the tech world, especially if you believe that you're no good behind a computer. Well, then once you get comfortable in that world, you'll be doing this, on autopilot.
That is the reason why you found the Bitcoin way, why you start doing the Bitcoin way, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you
Absolutely.
can you
I
tell
mean,
us more what exactly you do with your clients and what is it for? Like what people coming to you for advice and these things?
at the Bitcoin way, we're a team that removes the anxiety behind self custody by teaching anyone the skills and how to get it right and how to do it right properly the first time. So there's no mistakes, there's no guesswork. We literally handhold you through the process. Press here, do this, do that. There's no way you get it wrong. But at the same time, there's no shortcuts or workarounds in the process. We are extremely thorough and detailed in all of it. So we take you from point A, knowing absolutely nothing, to point Z, where you are completely knowledgeable about every little element that's involved in being your own bank. And then, of course, we train you, we follow up with you, we give you documentation, we stay in touch with you so that your muscle memory continues to be formed and continues to mature so that at some point you become fully autonomous, where you don't need us, you don't need anyone other than yourself in order to take this knowledge, and then you pass it along to your immediate trusted circle, and hopefully they carry on in that path forever. So at the Bitcoin way, we help people get on, the road to self-sovereignty. So we show you how to protect your money, Bitcoin in self-custody. We also have cybersecurity where we help you protect your digital footprint because, these days with the increased surveillance that's out there, people think they're stuck. You're not stuck. There are tools out there. Of course, the media and the mainstream will never advertise them because they don't want you knowing about them. But the open source movement is growing. In fact, it's like exploding in the last 3 to 5 years. Abundance of tools that most people simply need to become familiar with, and this is what we teach here at the Bitcoin way. And of course, there's also the excuse me, the jurisdictional freedom, where we help people move to places that respect them as human beings, that actually want them there, and are not there to treat them as criminals, overtax them, and use them as cattle.
Okay. If you should give me like or not me but also the audience the one tip about the self custody, what people making the biggest mistake and also the biggest mistake in the cyber security.
The biggest mistake is trying to rush it. If you've never done self custody before, you may not necessarily be familiar, with what's the best hardware, what's the best software, and just what's the best approach to do it. And so some people are able to watch a video online and understand everything, but a lot of people aren't, and that's fine. There are experts that are there that can walk you through it. We're one of them. But what you don't want to do in Bitcoin is assume things. You need to know exactly what you're doing in order to avoid mistakes. And again, this is not a hard process. It's just something new that the world has never seen or known before. And so once you master the steps, anyone can do this. And so the key here is to understand why you're in Bitcoin. That is, it's the key to your sovereignty and your freedom. And then just mastering the right steps, the right hardware, the right software, and not rushing through anything.
Yeah, like when we met in Abu Dhabi and you told me if I am able to recover when something happened, and then the first thing what I did when I came home from that conference was actually testing my recovery systems, and I was very happy that I did that because I found out that it was easy because I have my wallet still. But if I will not have my access to my wallet, and when I'm opening the new one, I think that I will be like panicking what I'm doing because some steps was like and I consider myself kind of like knowledgeable a little bit about Bitcoin, but still, like it was very interesting experience, and that's also was the inspiration for last mission of 11 when I also want other people to do that because uh, then you are much more calm about things, and that's I think that what people should be calm when they're using Bitcoin, and they know what they should do. Um, what is the what is the one biggest mistake what people do in cyber security?
Is that they just don't know what they're doing and they're guessing. Cybersecurity is a vast, vast world, right? I mean, there's a lot of tools out there. There's a lot of ways to go from point A to point B. Not all of them are correct. Not all of them are efficient, and a lot of them are reckless. So it's really about informing yourself properly before you attempt anything, especially when it's something that is directly connected to your savings. You don't want to play Russian roulette with your money. You really want to be sure that whatever you're putting together and you're learning is as bulletproof as humanly possible. And so taking it one step at a time is the right approach. This is not a race. I mean, even when we consult with folks, we meet them where they are on this journey. Most people, have barely touched a computer, beyond its most basic functions. So we meet them at this level and we slowly, train them to get a bit more comfortable. And eventually they go from that to being, almost as comfortable as we are with regards to all of the elements pertaining to self-custody, cybersecurity, even private de-googled phones. There's a lot of interest in that these days, again, because of the increased surveillance and the censorship online and the requirement to provide ID, to use a search engine, depending where you are in this world. All this insanity is expected from a system that is built to steal, censor, and control.
Hmm.
And so, if you no longer want to live in this world, well, you now have the option, a real option, to opt out. So you start with your money, you move up with your personal digital security, and then eventually, if you can, you also vote with your feet. You move to better jurisdictions. You surround yourself with like-minded individuals, and you start living the world, inside the world and the future that you want to be part of. You're no longer stuck anymore. As of 2009, the entire legacy world has become optional. It's just a question of when 8 billion people finally realize and believe that.
Hmm. Also, you mentioned the phone that you have like so you buy some. Yeah, I was doing some research before when I was like, okay, I want to go a little bit deeper into it, and I think that there was some Pixel, I think, phone, and then you just make the software, you upload some software, and then you operate it as less with all the third parties, or how does it work? This one.
Yeah, essentially, like certain hardware, you're able to strip the default operating system, which is default Android, which is one of default Android is the worst possible operating system you can have on a phone because there's absolutely zero security and full out tracking and telemetry going on in the background. So basically, you strip that out and you replace it by an operating system that has none of that in the code to begin with. And so it fully locks down the unit and it sandboxes pretty much all the applications. Because right now, for example, on your iPhone or your stock Android, every app knows what other app is installed on the phone. They all talk to each other. This is why I don't know if you're familiar with the story that broke out recently from a user using the HSBC bank app who received a notification that he was being shut down because they detected a password manager that they don't approve of on his phone. Like, can you imagine how insane that is? So, how would a bank app know that you're even using a password manager on your phone? And even if they did, like, it's none of their business to begin with, right? It's your phone. But yet they locked him out of his account because of it.
That's
This is the
interesting.
type of insanity and surveillance that most people are unaware is happening on the devices that they've spent over $1,000 or euros on. So you think you've bought yourself a cool little device. What essentially you've done is that you've paid to be spied on by people that are weaponizing it against you. And this is what these solutions are here to destroy. They are here to say, no more. We remove all of this. The same applications that you're accustomed to using, you can still use them. It's the same apps, except they're completely stripped of these parasites in the background. And of course, there's a ton of other details that can go into these devices. You can customize them, you can tweak them, you can have different VPNs functioning on each profile. I mean, it's almost a limitless amount of granular details that you can deploy on these devices. But again, it comes from the world of tech, from cybersecurity, and most people are so far away from this. And we take all of this complexity and we translate it into simple ABCs that even someone in their 70s and 80s will understand and start using as if they've been using it their entire life.
Sounds great, this one, because everybody know how it is when you speak about something next to your phone, and then suddenly you have an advertisement on the thing, or some things just suddenly appear in your phone. So I think that this will later for Bitcoiners will be interesting choice to ask about those things like a phone and everything. Then you said also that you're helping people to get other residency and operating. Can you tell us more about this one?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we've been seeing like heightened interest from folks that are no longer happy in the jurisdictions that they're currently living in. Like, for example, we deal with a lot of Australians, a lot of people from the UK that are sick and tired of government overreach, unrealized capital gains tax, taxing unused bedrooms, and all sorts of ridiculous and insane ideas that keep coming out seemingly every other week. If you don't want to put up with this and you have the means to leave, you should definitely consider it, because there are much better countries that are going to welcome you with open arms. We focus, of course, on countries that are Bitcoin friendly, that have much better tax incentives, and where the government really just stays out of your life. Because the government's role isn't to babysit you. They have no business telling you how to raise your kids and what to do, in your everyday life. As long as you're not breaking, legitimate legal rules, you're free to do whatever you want. I mean, every person is born with a God-given right to freedom. You don't need permission from someone to live as a free individual. But yet, in some countries, there's a bunch of psychopaths that believe they have the right to play God and, override all of this stuff. And now people, again, are voting with their feet and, moving to countries that are not adopting this stupid mindset. And so we help folks help there. Initially, the whole Plan B service that we offer at the Bitcoin Way, a big part of it was for me. After Lebanon, I needed to find somewhere where the risks of Lebanon happening again were as close to zero as humanly possible. And so after, many months of research and, tearing apart pretty much every jurisdiction on the planet, right now we're focusing on Central America, because, I believe this part of the world is going to become, one of the monocles of the future world, that, and, very possibly some areas in the Middle East as well. The West, the EU, and, all these other countries, these countries, unless a miracle happens, very soon, they are headed on a very, very dark path. And those that are going to be caught in it, unfortunately, are going to experience something that they are not going to like. And so we assist folks into, again, part of the road to self-sovereignty, into securing, that secondary Plan B residency. Some people have 2, some people have 3, 4, 5. We have clients that have 9 passports. And depending where you are on this planet, this Plan B is likely going to become your Plan A or your Plan 911, because you're going to realize that you don't have, the luxury of time anymore to think about whether you do it or not. You're going to have to get off your ass and move, while you still can, before they lock you down in a way where you can't leave. And so there's also, that urgency that, a lot of folks are starting to feel.
Yeah, in other of your interview, you said that you are expecting that soon, and I think that you said somewhere in 2026 or something like that. That was your prediction. Is it
For
for that you cannot leave, or that they will make it hard for you to leave? You said
Yeah,
do
of
it
course.
till when you have a chance to do it. Yeah.
Of course. It wouldn't surprise me if they invent reasons to keep you locked in. I mean, you saw what happened during COVID. Like, who would have thought the entire planet would be locked at home, like a bunch of dogs over a made-up scam like this? But yet it happened, right? But COVID um, opened up Pandora's box, in my opinion. Like, it woke up a lot of people, and enough good people pushed back for the whole thing to collapse. And so these people are not falling for the same tricks anymore, And so now with the existence of Bitcoin and the energy that has been put forth by those pushing out the truth on a regular basis, you've got platforms like X now. While of course they're not ideal, but they're much better than others. They have become the number one news source for the world, essentially, because nobody believes governments anymore. Certainly nobody believes, or at least most people are starting not to believe the mainstream media anymore, which are nothing more than paid narratives at this point. A lot of people are starting to understand, that they've been lied to pretty much their entire lives. And when people understand this, well, they get angry. And when people get angry, they resist and they push back and they start looking for alternatives. And this is what we're starting to see here. And so think of it as like a bank run on countries. When a lot of people want to leave, well, those in power, they get upset and then they want to prevent that leak. So in the same way they prevent you from accessing your funds when everybody tries to go to the bank teller, well, if everybody tries to leave the country, well, they will attempt to restrict you in that sense as well. So again, it may seem extreme, but under extreme situations you can expect all of these things, and I expect 2026 to at least make that a bit more obvious, depending of course where you are on this planet.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing that you can take Bitcoin wherever you want and wherever you go. Basically, everything with you. Um, you operating in Bitcoin standard, basically. That you.
Yes, we are 100% on a Bitcoin standard since the day we started. We don't have any fiat rails. We don't accept any fiat. Anything we do at the Bitcoin way is 100% Bitcoin related. We live on a Bitcoin standard. It's gotten much easier to do so. Yes, in some situations, there are maybe an extra 2 or 3 steps that you have to undertake. Not the end of the world. But again, it depends on how bad you want to secure your freedom and your sovereignty and refuse to live under stupid regimes that have absolutely zero respect for you. And so Bitcoin is integrity. It's a reflection of yourself. We are Bitcoin. If you accept being used and abused, well, that says more about you than anything else. Bitcoin is your option to say no. Bitcoin is your option to regain value as a human being and to live life on your terms as a decent human being. Um, that's why there's a lot of morality, spirituality. Some people attribute religious aspects to Bitcoin because it really forces you to think about so many angles that were completely oblivious on a fiat standard, because that whole world was a scam that kept distracting you from what you really needed to pay attention, which is it was a scam to begin with, where you are the product, like you are the cattle that are are put there for the pleasure of those who created that parasitic system.
Um, Bitcoin basically requires lots of responsibility to begin with, or to basically operate with Bitcoin. You have to have lots of responsibility for other stuff. But people usually they want more like I would say it's not safety, it's false safety. But they think that it's safety when you not using this system. Do you think that this is the problem for Bitcoin's future, like the adoption and everything?
Look, Bitcoin's been around for 16 years, right? It's gotten much simpler to use than how it was, on day one, and it's going to continue getting simpler. I mean, much simpler. If people are expecting things to work exactly how they are in a fiat world in Bitcoin, that's not going to happen. That's like an unrealistic expectation. Um, there's not much of a difference today, anyhow, between how things work in fiat and how things work in Bitcoin. Maybe like there's a few more steps involved depending what you're doing in the Bitcoin world. But people have to, get out of their comfort zone and literally learn 7 or 8 new steps in order to get back to that comfort zone, but in a world that is completely sovereign, where they are no longer depending on the permission of someone else, right? So, Bitcoin and self custody, not rocket science. Anyone can do it. Even if you don't have a tech background, you can learn 7 or 8 new steps. If you're driving a car, that's like a million times more complicated than doing self custody. But because no one's like a lot of people haven't tried it yet or haven't even taken 5 minutes to understand how it works, there's a lot of like self-inflicted assumptions about it that are like, oh my gosh, this is like terrible, it's going to fail, I'm going to screw it up, the government's going to shut it down. Like, you still have a lot of that craziness that's out there, and that's going to take some time because human nature is what it is. Like, some people are complacent, others are lazy, others can't be bothered, others are distracted by nonsense. Like, everybody has, like, there's no end to excuses. But like, success is given to those who do the work. And this time, it's not about winning a trophy. The success here is really about protecting your life, your sovereignty, and your freedom, because there's an ongoing attack on it, which is escalating. In case you haven't noticed, it's getting worse. And if you are, someone who's dependent on the very system that is attacking you, well, you're screwed.
Okay, I agree with this. You need to be prepared for things. Um, if somebody is now like a little bit afraid of using like doing self custody, using Node, and all of these things which come with using the Bitcoin in the right way, um, what you will tell them?
Take it a step at a time. Do it. You don't need to rush. Again, it's not a race. You can, if you want to do it on your own, there's plenty of amazing videos you can watch. If you're not comfortable doing it on your own, I mean, you can reach out to us. Like, we're one team out there that is exceptionally good at hand-holding folks through that entire process. We'll walk you through it, step one, step two, basic ABCs, in order to get you to that point of comfort where you're doing this, on your own. But you need to understand what Bitcoin is. Again, like I said earlier during this interview, this is not an investment. This is not a speculation. The fiat price, the dollar price, the euro price of Bitcoin is not what people should be obsessed over. These are meaningless metrics. Bitcoin is money. You cannot measure a deflationary asset with an inflationary one that is completely worthless. If you like number go up, I can assure you that Bitcoin's number is going to go up forever, because if you're measuring it with, worthless fiat, that is going to zero. And as it goes down to zero, the Bitcoin number goes up in that, in that metric. So that's why it's a worthless metric. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, no matter what happens in the world. And at some point, everything will be repriced in Satoshis. One Bitcoin has 100 million Satoshis. I'm 100% convinced that at some point, one Satoshi will have the purchasing power way more than $1. But the days of buying Bitcoin, holding it in self-custody, and protecting that UTXO, those are coming to an end really fast. Simply because there's only 21 million coins out there. No one's going to be able to make more, no matter who says what. It's done, and 95% of it is already mined. And so a lot of it is privately owned by individuals like you. And now there's like the big players, the governments and institutions that are also holding a big chunk of it. So when the remaining supply disappears, well, then it's too late because no one's going to sell it back to you, especially not for worthless dollars or euros or whatever other fiat currency that you're holding, because that's because for the exact reason that they're worthless. And so 8 billion people will come into Bitcoin at some point by earning it. They're not going to go to work, to get paid in dollars and euros because that's garbage. They're going to be gonna be paid in real money, Satoshis, Bitcoin, right? And they are probably going to end up using layer two solutions like Lightning and what have you that are built on top of the main layer of Bitcoin, because that's really what's going to scale globally. The base layer cannot scale to 8 billion people. There's only 21 million coins. And so the sooner people understand this, like the sooner people pay attention while they still can, they can still go out, buy, convert some of that, fiat money into real money, extract it, hold it in self-custody, and that becomes, that generational wealth that you keep hearing about. Otherwise, your people's lives are still going to improve considerably, but on layer twos, where they're just transacting in Bitcoin on a daily basis.
Yeah, if you before we will go to the questions of audience, I would like to ask you one final question, which is like, if you would take one takeaway from everything you said, what it will be, what you want people, or what you hope for that people will remember.
That their freedom is in their hands. Nobody needs anybody's permission to live as a free individual. You have the tools now to own your time and energy. You just simply have to take the time to learn the steps on how to do so. And once you do it, self custody is an incredibly empowering thing because, again, it cuts the chains of permissions from you. You live as a sovereign individual exactly the way you were meant to.
That's a nice message. So, Edward, he's asking, what is the best way to keep your assets safe, trusting yourself or use of device, and why?
You definitely need to trust yourself and your immediate inner circle. You have to develop the skills to create redundancy. And of course, you need to practice to make sure that your system that you have in place actually works and that you know how to use it inside out, like you've been doing it your entire life. You have to be very strict about the hardware and the software that you use because there's a lot of products out there. Not all of them are very good. This is not a side hobby or an afternoon project. This is generational wealth, and the level of, I guess, obsession slash paranoia can't be high enough. And it's not. I don't say this in a way like to be scary. I say this in a way to be like something to be excited about because again, like we've never had the opportunity to own our money. And so always wanting to fine tune and perfect and upgrade and update that whole ecosystem is something that I look forward to like every day. Like I'm the type of individual that if I can upgrade my setup every 20 minutes, I will do it. And I will push out the recommendation for folks to follow along with the explanations as to why we're doing this. This is technology. It's going to continuously evolve and get and then simpler and better as time moves forward. And we need to keep up with it because if we don't, well, then we fall behind, and then that introduces unnecessary counterparty risk.
Then Khalid, hi Tony. As someone from country that experience wars every few years, what advice do you have on self-custody arrangement?
In terms of what, like the hardware and software that to use? In terms of hardware, look, the criteria is very strict but very simple. Open source or verifiable source, Bitcoin only, fully air gapped for the hardware devices, and you absolutely have to be running your Bitcoin node. Without the node, you're not verifying anything, you're still trusting. So air gapped wallet and a Bitcoin node are an absolute must have for every single Bitcoiner out there.
Any advice on multi-sig setup?
Multi-sig is a very complicated like setup that shouldn't be done by someone who's never done self-custody to begin with. It's an extremely secure setup, and of course, it's getting simpler as as time moves forward. But you still need a minimum level of technical comfort before you even dabble into multi-sig. Start off with single sig. There's advanced single sig, that is extremely secure, but much simpler to get comfortable with. And then once you are, if you still want to move up to something like multi sig, then yes, that becomes like an easier conversation to have because then the risks of user error, they decrease noticeably.
Is it safer to use 24 words instead of 12? Or do I increase my risk of losing access with the 24 words?
No, 24 words is an excellent choice. Losing the words has nothing to do with whether you pick 12 or 24. It's really how you protect them. So, I mean, we dive deep into this in our consults, how to build like a proper secure infrastructure that has redundancy and all that stuff. But 24 is what we go for.
Do you believe people need to experience pain, like the frozen accounts, to truly understand Bitcoin?
I think it accelerates their understanding of why they need something like Bitcoin. I don't want to see people go through what I went through. But, I guess knowing human nature the way it is, I suspect a lot of them are going to have to in order simply to believe that this is real and that it will happen to them, at some point. Like no one's immune to this. Whether you live in a penthouse or in a regular apartment, the mechanics of the money that you're using to live your life right now, if it's that worthless paper, you're going to zero along with it.
Tony, your own financial collapse in Lebanon changed everything for you. What was the single biggest mindset shift you experienced after that moment?
That we were governed by thieves since the day we were born. The money that we were using is a tool of extraction. It's not money. And we were lied to since day one. And we don't have to do this anymore. You can opt out peacefully in a world that is no longer abusable in that sense. I know who's responsible for my collapse. I know what caused it. It's the broken money, it's the fiat system. And now that I know this, there's no force in this universe that'll ever make me go back to that corrupt and disgusting world. And I'm hoping more people will understand this before they taste what I have tasted in the last 6 years.
Yeah, I hope that too. Um, what finally makes self-custody click for most people?
When you know how to use it, when the steps are no longer, they no longer seem like, you're climbing Mount Everest. Once you learn the steps and become familiar with them and you repeat them a few times, you literally do them, like as brainless as having a cup of coffee. Like you don't think about it twice. When you drive in the morning, like do you think about it? No, you just get in, open the door, pop in the keys, and off you go. But the first day you got behind the steering wheel, you were nervous. There's not much difference between this and self-custody. But when you have somebody walking you through it, it's like having your driving teacher sitting next to you, telling you everything's going to be fine. Just take it a step at a time, and we'll be okay. And so again, you repeat it once, twice, three, four times, done. I don't believe anybody's too stupid for self-custody. I believe 8 billion people, unless you have an extreme reason as to why you can't do it, everybody can do it. And if you can't do it for whatever reason, I'm sure you know someone that you can trust that can help you with it. But the idea here is that you no longer have to trust a third party, like a foreign third party custodian. Certainly not a company, certainly not a government, certainly not like a foreign, anything pertaining to your money. The money needs to be in your control 100% of the time. Otherwise, it's not your money. It's as simple as that.
What does Tony think about Asia comparing to his prediction to South America, or you said Central America, I think, yeah?
Asia's a funny one. I mean, there's some parts of Asia, that are, I guess, adopting it, you know, in one shape or form. Eventually, I think the whole world is going to have to accept Bitcoin because you're not going to be able to stop this. There's been many countries, like China made it illegal. I don't know how many times, like 6 or 7 times, and how well has that worked? It's failed every single time. You cannot regulate peer-to-peer technology. You cannot stop peer-to-peer technology. This is a myth. This is a lie that the legacy system desperately wants people to believe. They want you to think that it's safer because somehow now they're involved. That's not true. You don't need them. Bitcoin was created for individuals, not institutions or governments. I mean, of course, they can use it. It's for everybody. Bitcoin doesn't care who you are. But peer-to-peer technology is unstoppable. That's why it's that idea whose time has come. It's like when somebody tells me, oh, they're going to stop or break or interrupt or regulate or make illegal Bitcoin, I laugh. I'm like, okay, well, if you can stop the sun from shining, or the wind from blowing, then maybe I'll listen to you, because that's how impossible it is. So
What is,
that's the message I would give to people who still think that somehow, this is like too good to be true. And again, Bitcoin is not crypto. There's a very clear distinction. If there's a company behind the project or a group of people making decisions for it, its value is zero. You can speculate on it if you like to gamble and have fun and like waste your time. But for savings, real money, there's only one. The simplest, most dumbest choice. Bitcoin in self custody. That is the key. Not Bitcoin in an ETF, not Bitcoin in a Bitcoin treasury, not Bitcoin anywhere else other than your hands.
That's you now answer other two questions, because one of the question was about ETFs, and also if you think it's safe to invest in other crypto such Ethereum. But
they're all going to zero, my friend. These are all speculations. If you want to have fun, you're feeling lucky, be my guest. But I personally wouldn't touch that garbage at all.
that's all the questions what we have from the audience and from the chat. Thank you, Tony, for taking time to speak with me, to share your experience and your knowledge with audience, and I hope that you have a good time, and I wish
Thank you,
you the
Merrick. It was
best.
a pleasure being here, man.
Thank you, Tony, for joining.
Thank you.
I will let Tony go, and we will continue with our giveaways. I hope, guys, that you enjoyed the live stream, and if you take something from this, put the comment under the live stream. What is your biggest takeaway from this live stream? I would like to know what was the one thing, the main thing what you take away from this, and of course, like, subscribe, and all of these things. Yeah? And let's go to the other giveaway. Yeah, I do it like this. Thank you. Great chat, excellent content, Tony. Now I need to do this. Now you see this. Now we see our sponsors and random pick. Oh, guys, if you still didn't do any comment under episode 11 and mission 11, do it now. You have probably maybe like 10 seconds. And then we will do the giveaways. We will do the random picks. And now I just realized that we don't have best comment of the week. So we will do another rumble. So basically from episode will be today two winners. I will take the link from the episode. Fresh it. So sorry, I don't need this anymore. So first, let's do the live stream. The giveaway about Blog Hunters game. This is the board game which you can play with friends during the nights, game nights. Do people still play board games? I was playing that when we have when I was around like 20, when we always hang out and do some stuff with my friends. Mostly we play activity. This is not activity. This is not Člověče nezlob se. I don't know how to say in English. It's a board game when you actually understand how Bitcoin works. You have mining there, transactions, and as you know, mining is based on the luck. So you can be lucky or not. This game, we will now do the random pick from this episode, include replies, not allow duplicates, no. And continue. Pick winner, Martin Taneček. I'm not sure now if Martin didn't win the game before. Don't know. Anyway, if you win twice. Then we will do our giveaway from Trezor. And again, we will use the same one. So now will be one Marcel Vergone. Incredible breakdown. Yeah, so congratulations on your Trezor 5. I think that Marcel also won something. I think that he won the game as well. Guys, this is the consistency. If you comment regularly, you can win multiple times. And now we will do the comments for the Guardian, when you can be solo mining, learn something about Bitcoin mining, and test it out. Of course, the chances that you will hit the block are not that great, but you're still contributing to the network, and you decentralize the network. If you want to know more about solo mining, you can download this PDF guide when you will get more information about what is mining, what is solo mining, what is the difference, and all of these things. And now we are UA1. Nature. But now I'm not sure if I put the correct URL. I think that no, but now I did it, so I cannot take it back. It's already done. So Nature, we are win a guardian of blockchain. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching this live stream. If you have some questions, you can still put them in the chat. But I think that today live stream was great. I learned some new stuff. I hope that you too. And we will probably see each other on the next live stream on 9 of January 2026 now. And there will be our final guest of the last live stream of the season 1. And then there will be live stream on 21st of January when we will announce the winners. So basically last week is the last stream of stage 1. I hope that you guys enjoyed everything, and join the one more thing here in the description. You can find this link when you have all the links to everything you need, everything you can follow, you can subscribe, you can join the Telegram group, and yeah, that's, I think, everything for today. If you like that, put like, and I will see you the next week.